Everyone, and welcome to the first Police Services Board meeting of 2025. Today is January the 21st, so Happy New Year. And we'll take the roll call, and it looks like everyone is here. We still have one empty seat as we're waiting for a provincial appointee to this board. We hope that that can happen within the near future. So looking for approval of the agenda. Moved by Matt Hall, seconded by the Mayor. All those in favor? Carried. And declarations of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we will proceed to number 4, which is appointment of new chair and vice chair. And for this activity, I will be stepping out of the chair, and our clerk, Jennifer Burr, will take the chair to conduct the election, if you will.
Thank you. So we will then open for nominations for position of chair.
I'll nominate Vice Chair Matt Hall.
Is there a seconder for that one? Annika? All in favor? Carried. And now we'll take nominations for the position of vice chair.
I'll nominate John Brennan.
And a seconder for that one, Annika? All in favor? Carried.
That's me now. Yes. Yep, there you go.
Just a point of order. Rely on Jennifer Pereira. She does a great job keeping me in organizing. She should do the same for you. So all praise to our clerk.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yes, I will be relying on Jen. Thank you everybody for your vote of confidence. Thank you for taking over for the next year. And then thanks for John for his past 2 years of guiding our leadership and getting us to where we are today. I know we got a busy year coming up, so I look forward to getting all these items moved forward, getting our annex completed, and keeping our service municipal and homegrown. So, moving right along. Reading correction or approval of minutes. General meeting minutes December 17th, 2024. Recommendations that they be approved as written. Looking for a mover by Member Brennan, seconded by Mayor Grantham. All those in favor? Carried. Next, communications, recommendations, communications, items 6.1.1 to 6.1.6 be received for information. I'm assuming we just do these all as, they can be approved as a group, or?
They can, so you can make a motion to approve for information, and then if anybody has any that they want to speak on, then they can do so.
Okay, we have a motion to receive these items for information. Member Brennan, seconded by Member Hans. Anybody have any questions? Do them before we approve them. Member Hans.
Thank you, Chair. I had 2. One was more of a comment I want to ask in regards to 6.1.4 and 6.1.5. And they often read, please pass on this information to the attention of the policing community. So I wanted to ask, whose responsibility is it, though, to bring it to the attention of the community, like the Ontario community? And I wasn't sure if you might know that, Chief.
So through the chair to Member Hahn, so these correspondences come through the Assistant Deputy Minister Ken Weatherall, who is with the Solicitor General's office. So they come out as all chiefs to all of the police services in the province. And then the sharing of information from that point on would be a responsibility of the police service. So we will task Constable McIntyre to share appropriate information in relation to any sort of new information that the community may need to know. So in particularly with 6.1.4, this type of information could go out as sort of a general awareness information. Where I can see it may be beneficial is if someone perhaps resided near a child daycare center and had suspicions, and not knowing that there had been an amendment or a change to the law, may sort of tweak an interest to then make a reach out to their local police service to report some type of behavior that maybe they are now aware of is now illegal. But the idea of sharing within your community, there's a bit of a pick list here of areas that probably have some importance to share with your community, others maybe less so.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. And I was hoping it was through the community versus Solgen, but I wasn't sure. And I was just noticing how many said, please share it with the police community, but I was wondering further, and you've answered it perfectly. Thank you very much. My second question relates to 6.1.6, the RIDE program, and it appeared like on our documents or charts that we received for the month of December, 3 were carried out. And I wondered if you could just let us know, were there any charges being laid with those 3 RIDE programs, and were they successful?
I'll speak to that. As far as charges in the rides for December, I can't recall off the top of my head. I believe there was one impaired driving charge laid. I know that they did do numerous roadside screening tests and people passed, so that's a good sign. Under the criminal code, we have the ability to stop anyone and ask for a breath in hand, as long as it's a legitimate stop for a Highway Traffic Act offense. We have the ability to ask anyone to provide a sample of their breath. So they are doing that, our members are doing that. And again, as far as I know, I believe there was one impaired driver charged through a RIDE program.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions on any other items? Okay, so that motion's already been seconded, so I guess we'll vote all in favor of receiving them for information. Carried. Okay, number 7, review of monthly police service reports. Recommendation monthly reports 7.1, 7.6, receive our information. We'll hand that over to the chief if he wants to speak to any.
Thank you, Chair. Again, maybe in the sense of just moving along. The reports obviously outline the activities for the month of December, but the other benefit is that it sort of gives you almost a year-end perspective as well. So I'll certainly sort of let the reports sort of speak for themselves and pause and take any questions from any of the members as they so choose.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Through you, and I have 2 questions, a little separate. First is KPIs. How we do with response time KPIs, either chief or deputy chief? It's a request to get response time KPIs.
So through the chair to the mayor. So we're I would say moving slowly. Next week we do have a meeting set with the inspector of policing. That is scheduled for next Thursday, I believe. And I know that is high on their list of areas to look at implementing. So I think maybe before putting the cart before the horse, it would be interesting to sort of see what areas they are looking or hoping for police services to draw data out to be able to report on. So I think that meeting will, I think, provide a bit of a launch point for us to then start moving in that direction. Okay. In addition to that, we are looking at a third-party vendor to bring in or implement a dashboard reporting tool that other policing services of similar size are utilizing, which has scripts that look to pull that sort of information forward. So it looks like a very effective tool to implement for our service so that we will have those data sets and be able to report on that back to the board.
Okay, thank you. And May Chair, my second question is in regard to governance, and I'll give the preamble why I'm asking. I think everybody's aware of the spotlight that's been on different boards, whether it's hospital boards or boards of education regarding expenses and approval of things. So I have 2 questions that came out of the budget. First of all, is with the board expenses as to who approves, first question would be who approves board expenses. And I'll maybe the clerk or somebody can, so who is approving our expenses when we travel? That's my first. And do we have an approval policy? So in terms of travel, I mean, we're all adults and you can assume we can govern ourselves properly. But is there an approval mechanism for travel gauges? Strictly governance questions, so I'll ask that one first. I don't know who can answer, and maybe the clerk can help as to who.
I may defer that one to either the
Yeah.
clerk or the outgoing chair.
So this has been brought up before.
Oh, okay.
And past practice has always been that it was the discretion of the chair
Okay.
for approval. There is no policy, but perhaps, you know, at the board's will, they could maybe look into that further, but it has been the discretion of the chair. I think Mark has something to say as well.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
go ahead.
so
Mark.
if I may just sort of inject, Dave Preston, a name that I keep sort of throwing out to the board here, who is contracted to write policies, both for the service and for the board. We could probably tap his shoulder to look at drafting such a policy, and I'm sure that other boards may already have that in existence. If not, Dave is writing policy for a number of services. I think he's up to about 8 or 9 now. And he's also a member of the Policy Development Committee under the OACP umbrella. So he has certainly a line of sight to a lot of different boards and services. And so he may be able to assist in that area.
Okay, so then my other question is, when I travel, I don't mind, who approves my expenses when I travel? Is there somebody, is the chair approving them or is the clerk? And that's a question because it's important.
Yeah, I generally do.
Okay. We'll change that in the policy. And the second part, again, a governance issue, and Chief, I didn't get an opportunity to ask you this one. The chief, who approves the chief's expenses? Dean, can I just, it's a fair question, Mark, who do you send your expenses to for approval?
So through the chair to the mayor, I guess through the approval process of our operating budget provides me a budget amount for conferences and training elements. And so I submit my expenses through to the finance department, like all of our other invoices, and they just get processed that way. So I for lack of better terms, I would say the umbrella is the board approval of the operating budget, which covers that particular area.
Okay.
So it's a fairly wide, scattered sort of area of expenses, but it's through that process.
Yeah. And I want to make it clear, I wasn't looking for something, there's no, but I've become painfully aware of governance and oversight, so I'm gonna ask that we should formalize the approval process, because even in my corporate life, as Inic will know, I had a budget, but it was always approved by the publisher, the newspaper, or my VP, right? So I'm gonna ask that we should take it on to have a policy in place for approval of the chiefs. Again, it's to protect all of us, right? So there's oversights, no one could say Chief Campbell did this and the board ignored it. So kind of my 2 requests that we look at the governance and the policies regarding expenses.
Perfect. I think Ron had a comment you want to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on that, I can do a little bit of digging and see if I can come up with a pre-existing policy. I'm sure that there are agencies that already have that. Filling that, I would think that the municipality probably has a policy, or likely has a policy related to travel and expenses that you may use to assist in drafting your own, but I will do some work to try to find one for you.
Yep, thank you. Again, it's meant to protect the board and the chief from any,
You should have one.
yes, thank you.
Perfect. Maybe it's something we can revisit next meeting then, if after Ron's had a chance to look in, then we'll go from there. Fantastic. Any other questions about the activity reports? Oh, sorry, Member Hahn.
Yes, I had a few, and interesting about governance also. In regards to these police reports, I wanted to ask, and possibly it needs to be separate items, but is there a possibility on primarily 7 the police service reports, to maybe look at grouping all the statistical reports for the month together, meaning, you know, the overtime reports, the use of force, the FOIP. Does it need to be separated? And maybe it does, but if not, could all those be grouped together? But then the community services report, which is more of a verbal report, as well as the CID report, which is quite verbal also. It has a little bit of stats at the end, but that we could maybe condense it so that 7.1 might read monthly statistical reports, and then the other ones be the reports that have, you know, more dialogue in them. Do you understand? Just because it would be 7.1. Any questions on the statistical reports, and especially in the month of January? Like, it's pretty early to look at comparisons. So it's something maybe, I don't know if the chief or the clerk could take a look at, just to group a little bit different. But I do like the CID report to be itemized separately, if that's possible. And maybe even look at the report saying, is there value for the board members to be aware of this? Is it a kind of a governance report, or is it more operating report? So I'll leave that, like the court clerk report. My question relates to actually the CID report, and I wanted to ask the chief. I was quite interested. Oops, I bet your in the school shooting threat, and that you were made aware by Interpol Ottawa. Now, I haven't read that very often, that Interpol Ottawa is calling you. So, and it was through social media that they must have had some report or something that would have triggered that request to you. Could you outline a little bit what would have led to Interpol Ottawa calling you, and how frequently does that happen?
So through the chair to Member Hahn, I'll address that question first, and then I'm going to flip back to your original comment about reporting structure and stuff. So a very unique investigation. Interpol, obviously, is International Police, is sort of the short acronym there. And very aligned with Interpol is Agency of the Five Eyes. I'm not sure if anyone at the table here has heard of the Five Eyes, but it's a collaboration of different countries who have a lens towards online sort of commentary, incidents, reporting that sort of meets a threshold of sort of bringing alerts to specific areas about potential incidents arising. So it was through that sort of navigation of seeing information about a social media post about a potential of a school-related shooting that feathered through that to get to us. And once it landed on our inbox, our investigators took advantage of some of the tools that we now have access to dig into some of those IP address related issues to find a person of interest who we then were able to go and speak to and eventually resolve the issue. So it's through more of a global lens where we are, or people are looking for potential activities that may be threatening in communities. That then is shared with the local community where they believe the perpetrator is living. So if I can say, the way that the apparatus is worked very well in this particular case, because it identified the potential of something, was able to get it into the right lane where it needed to be, and the right local agency notified, where we were then able to take the ball and go further and through investigative steps, identify the person and resolve the investigation.
What kind of time lag would that be? Like, is that within hours of someone? Like, was that a post? I'm just inquiring. Is there a delay in that information? Because this is really critical, a school shooting. So I'm not sure on that time frame.
So through the board to Member Hahn, just to follow up on that, I don't believe that there was much of a delay in this this particular incident. I think that once the potential of a threat was detected and it was passed along through the channels, that time wasn't very long.
Okay.
And then our investigators obviously put a high priority on it and went to work on it. And I think in a very quick fashion, I remember reading the incident, but I think in a very short time period, they were able to dig through and find the potential suspect and then make an intervention with that person.
Do you receive Interpol requests or information very often?
Again, through the chair to Member Hahn, no, which is a good thing.
Yes.
We had an opportunity, obviously, a number of years ago to land on the international stage.
Yes.
And I would say since that, there hasn't been many incidents of a reach out or a reach in by Interpol to share such information.
Okay, thank you.
And sorry, I'm just gonna
yes.
Address the reporting issue. So I made mention of this earlier about our interest to engage a third-party vendor about the creation of a dashboard, which will allow us to start to pull the data, the activities that we are undertaking on a day-to-day basis, so that we are getting an accurate picture of what activities, where, when, how much time we are doing on things. So we are looking to utilize that dashboard to really reinvent some of the reporting that the board will see. The other area is obviously the completion of the strategic plan. We also need to revamp our reporting structure so that we can then start to show the direct links back to those strategic pillars that were identified in the strategic plan. So there's some work that we're looking to undertake. We'll certainly be working with people in the clerk's office to try to reformat how the reports look like. And we'll certainly take the points that you brought forward as consideration as to how to maybe better sort of articulate those activities. That being said, under the Community Policing Safety Act, there are still some requirements to report on law enforcement, crime prevention, victim assistance, public safety, and other areas. So we want to ensure that we are still meeting that compliance of bringing forth that information as the legislation requires us to.
That's very, very well received, knowing that you're working on it. The other question I had, and I see we're going into the budget also, and I did note that there are still some adjustments to be had to that budget prior to it being finalized. I saw that the board's salary wasn't brought forward for the December amount. It might have been just that time frame, and that there's still things like burn permits that still need to be put in there. So I believe, if I'm correct, we always receive a final budget in the month of February after all the adjustments. So I think I just was going to say, I mean, the budget is looking very good, the results, but there are still a few further adjustments from what I'm understanding. One further one, and maybe it's the wording of the line in the budget, and I don't have it right up, but under board expenses, it says legal. And I know the amount was around 50,000. And you know, someone from the community would think, oh, those are legal expenses that you're paying a lawyer to proceed with work that you've requested them to do. But it's, if I'm correct, that legal is not just legal costs, it's also payout. Do you know what I'm saying? And maybe I could go to Doug on that. Is there another way to word that so it's legal, and I don't want to call it payout, but I believe that's incorporated in that legal cost to separate it?
If I may, sorry, just before Director Payne provides an answer. Having reviewed that, I believe that some of the dollar amount in that line is representative of a unused portion of the MSERS grant from 2023, 2024. So the way that that grant was received by the service was in late 2023, early 2024, and we had until March 31st to spend that grant money. We were in a position where a lot of that money was geared towards salary dollars, and obviously we didn't have time to spend the majority of that grant application. So there was money that was returned to the ministry, and I believe that's the line that the finance department put that into. So your earlier comment about adjustments, there are some areas in the budget that we're looking and working with the Director of Finance to adjust some of those areas. I will bring that one forward to him as well. Maybe there's a more appropriate, a new line that maybe needs to be created to more accurately reflect that amount of money as opposed to it just being generalized as a legal cost.
Very good. That explains it. Thank you.
Vice Chair Brennan?
Just following that point, I think maybe if we could see something that said legal services might help us understand, and then the second one would have a different name to it, because when I see legal services, then I think, okay, well, we retained lawyers to provide a legal service within the police board or within the police service, and the other one would be, well, whatever that ends up being called, so we can better distinguish. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? Can we get a mover and a seconder to receive those information? Moved by Mayor Grantham, seconded by Vice Chair Brennan. All in favor? Okay. Number 8, items from Chief Campbell. We will kick it over to him.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm going to kick it over to the Deputy Chief.
And it's gonna stop with me. So this is just a requirement under the new act to, for the board to appoint police officers under the new act. So in this case, these are a bit behind the times. We're just catching up. So these 3 members that are on the list here, they've started since April 1st of 2024. They've been with us from, let's see, sworn in June through to, I think, November, these 3 members. So that's on me not getting it in here ahead of time, but I'm on it now, and anytime that members come in, we'll be sure to get it before the board right away. So they are letters of appointment, and we'll have the chair sign those.
Perfect. So recommendations, the board receive report POL 2025-01 information further that the board appoint Constable M. Stubb, Constable A. Calpuzos, and Constable S. Cavalier under section 83(4) of the Community Safety and Policing Act. We have a mover and a second. Moved by Mayor Grantham, second by Member Hahn. All in favor? Carried. Go. Move right on. Number 9, inquiries or comments by members. Let's start to the left with Mayor Grantham.
I said this last night and then posted on my social media, and hopefully I get to a couple more people through this, is there's a cold weather event, and I just remind people that there are supports available. The library is open as a warming center. There are agencies available, 37 Frank, for example, the Women's Rural Resource Center. But if anybody is unhoused or in need of shelter, please reach out to the community navigator from the library. So I just want to remind everybody that cold weather event, but there are supports available.
Thank you. Member Hahn.
None for me, thank you.
Vice Chair Brennan.
Just a quick one. I want to thank the new chair for undertaking the responsibilities of being chair. I think it's important that people step forward in our community into leadership positions in municipal politics, and the police board is one of them. And you know, in less than 2 years, we're going to be having elections, and I just ask people in a certain demographic, let's say not people in their 60s and 70s, like that's where I am, but you know, we need people who are young and dynamic and involved in the community to step forward. I know it's busy, but I just want to thank Matt. I know he's got a busy life, and it's not easy to step into these kinds of responsibilities, but I think we should acknowledge leaders and let that be an example to other people in the community to get involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you for those kind words. Yeah, it has been fun. It's been a great learning experience. 3 years ago, before this all started, if someone asked me if I was going to get involved in municipal politics, I would have laughed at them, but it's been fun. I'm glad I've gotten involved. My only comment is away PSB Spring Conference coming up in London in June at the Lamplighter. I would encourage anybody from the board that's able to attend to go.
What day is that, Chair?
Sorry?
What day is that?
That day is the 3rd to the 5th.
Okay, we gotta get that in my calendar.
Yeah. Great learning opportunity. They always have a bunch of good topics to talk about. Great networking opportunity to talk to members of other boards. I've gone to as many as I can and always taken something away from each of them. So just putting it out there, encourage everybody to sign up if you're able to.
Yep.
Yeah. Next one, in camera. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, that did bring me to, there is a meeting on January 30th with,
Inspector General.
yes. Tell me what that is all about.
Sure. Yep.
Through the chair. So the Inspector General, Ryan Teschner, has undertaken to do what he's called a roadshow and visit all of the municipal police services across the province. It essentially is not much more than an opportunity to meet the Inspector General. He has a presentation that he does, and then obviously entertains questions. Strathroy is the last service in Zone 6 that hasn't had the visit yet. So I suspect that he'll be completed the municipal services shortly into the new year, and we'll probably go on to the detachment boards next, which will be a huge undertaking because there's 44 of them in Northern Ontario. But it's informal in the sense that it's just an opportunity for the board members to actually hear from Ryan Teschner, hear what his vision is, and for you to provide feedback. I know you're going to be out of the country, and you know that time of year. Kudos to you for being out of the country, but that's essentially what it's about. So.
Is there an opportunity to receive his report?
Yeah, I can facilitate that. We send an email to you that outlines what he spoke about, if that is helpful.
PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, he doesn't have a PowerPoint, he just speaks.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sorry, and if I may just top up Ron's comments. So the inspectorate and or designates have been very committed to also meeting and making the zone meetings, which are obviously the Zone 6 meeting is a joint meeting between policing services or police leaders and OAPSB members. So it's a great opportunity as we evolve through the inspectorate of policing. Obviously it's a newly minted, a newly created office that provides greater transparency oversight to policing services in the province. And they are very open to working and not only working with police services but police service boards to ensure that we all understand the different navigations that we're going through and the different responsibilities. I know the mayor talked about governance. We talk about operations all the time. Obviously the inspectorate of policing has even a different role than those two areas. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. We did submit our responses to the most recent questionnaire that the inspectorate of policing put out, And I know that the board secretary, along with I think other board members, worked on those questions from the board perspective and had those submitted as well. So I'm sure that that information is information that they'll digest and in localized conversations probably bring forward some of those questions back to the board members.
Okay.
Perfect, yep, Ron, go ahead.
So since you're not going to be here, I just want to explain the kind of structure of the inspectorate. Obviously, you're aware of the advisory role because that's the position that I play. But there's also an investigative division for complaints. There's also an inspections unit that does inspections on police services or boards. So as an example, the most recent one was on public order units. Strathroy doesn't have a public order unit, but they would have an agreement to have public order unit support when necessary, so that inspection was quite easy for Strathroy. And there's also a data management division, so that's where these questionnaires are being directed, and I suspect that at some point the data management and inspections will work together related to response times, because that seems to be one of the areas that the Inspector General is interested in pursuing. So yeah, so there's these different pillars, right? So I'm in a support role, right? So my responsibility is to assist. I already sent Jen and the chair 2 examples of policies that I was able to get while we were sitting here. So that's my role, is to be supportive, right? So just to provide a little more clarity.
Very good.
Perfect, thank you. One last thing to add, if anyone does want to register for the OAPSB Spring Conference, just contact Jen, and she will get you registered and signed up. Okay, what we got next here? In-camera matters, board move in closed session, discuss the following. One item in accordance with municipality procedure bylaw, approving camera meeting minutes. And 2 items pursuant section 44(2)B of the CSPA as amended regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board. We have a mover, a seconder. Moved by member Hahn, seconded by Mayor Grantham. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we are back to open session. The board was in camera to discuss one item in accordance with the municipality's procedure bylaw and then 2 items pursuant to section 44(2)B of the CSPA regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board. Next is scheduled meetings. Next meeting Tuesday, February 8th, 2025. Sorry, there was a recommendation that the board approve the direction that was discussed in closed session as well. That doesn't need to be voted on.
It does.
Okay. Mover Mayor Grantham, seconder. Vice Chair Brennan, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Now moving on. Scheduled meetings. Next one, Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at 10 a.m. And with that, we will adjourn. Do we have a mover to adjourn at 11:05? Mayor Grantham, seconder. Member Hahn, all in favor?
When is the next meeting of the?
February 18th.